Also, something I wouldn't mind bringing up is Bibles. Now, it clearly says in Revelation, he who adds to or takes away from these words, I shall add to him all the plagues written in this book. And there's a fair few plagues going about in the book of Revelation. There is clear evidence that a simple sentence is being manufactured into a bloody paragraph, so to speak. In many Bibles, the New Living Translation, New International Version, the Bible to go off is the King James, with the these and the thys. And some people who would seem to have prominence in the body of Christ might say, oh, it's easy for people to understand. Well, that's not much of a comeback after it clearly stipulates he who adds to or takes away from these words. And it seems clear that the New Living Translation, New International Version, big fat Bibles with all these asterisks and another paragraph down the bottom and a paragraph here and there, and I'll post you a paragraph, I'll send you another paragraph. Would you like to pay for another paragraph? Look over there, there's another paragraph. And these Bibles are absolute tripe. It does say, and I'll give you an example, Song of Solomon's, it says, he feedeth amongst the lilies. That is in the King James Version of the Bible. In Song of Solomon's, he feedeth amongst the lilies. Now, in one of the newer Bibles, it says he browseth amongst the lilies. Now, there's a clear difference between browsing amongst the lilies and feeding amongst them. And we all know what feeding amongst them means. And I think that it's a beautiful verse. But that's just one example of Bibles being extended to many paragraphs and many... What's there gonna be? An alternate ending next in one bloody Bible? Anyway, and there needs to be more chatting about spiritual gifts, who's got what, because as churches do their outreach programs, there's no use in 20 prophets going out, considering that you could send a prophet, a guy with signs and wonders, a guy with the spiritual gift of healing or the spiritual gift of miracles, helps in administrations. Do you know what I'm saying? Some speakers rarely even quote the Bible during their speeches up the front. So there's a lot of people with itching ears, and they're building up pastors and priests and speakers to be that which they want, and that's basically fodder for the enemy because of the tripe that they speak. So yes, and it still clearly stipulates how to worship. It says, sing to the Lord a new song. That's stipulated in the Bible. Clap your hands, all you people. Shout to God with a voice of triumph. That's stipulated as well. Lift up your hands. So there's three very big keys of worship. And it also says, shout unto God with a voice of triumph. So there's some clear keys to worship. You hear some old churches, old school churches, with the really uncomfortable wooden pews, not to mention. And you hear these old churches singing the same hymns from the same hymn book. They don't clap. The audience and the congregation is whispering, and there's not much coming from the pulpit either, but a bit of lifeless innuendo and so to speak. And how's your mother? But yeah, spiritual gifts, I think there needs to be more like signs and wonders. We all know what signs and wonders is. Someone does the sign and the wonder follows. The old miracle, the old gift of miracles, and a big one is don't rebuke a fool or you get a blot. As far as I'm concerned, from my experience, that's a weird bad feeling on the head, a blot. But that's for rebuking a fool. Also, it says don't get into mindless disputes. I think a lot of mindless disputes, in my experience, have come between me and fools when I've been lured into being silly in that way and getting caught up in a mindless dispute. But it does say in Proverbs, even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. Now maybe that verse is pertaining to a fool realising the smartness of someone not rebuking him but being quiet, and then not getting into a mindless dispute. Also no answer there. And then the fool gets his silence on and realises how it says in the Bible, even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. So maybe that's him learning after us taking on a few bits of patience and nothing like a bit of determination, patience and willpower. I prayed the same prayer for about 2 years in my closet, and it was just a quiet spot, so I actually went into my closet. There's a walk-in, so there's a fair bit of room. Didn't get cramped. There was no cramp in my style. So I prayed for God to bless my family, friends and neighbours. I prayed for God to make me a threat to the enemy, and I also prayed for truth. Those 3 prayers I prayed for 2 years, and God certainly answered me. So keep praying. Like the woman that goes to the judge, and the judge says, short of this woman wearying me, I'm getting so sick of her, or so to speak, getting so sick of her coming to me, I'm going to answer her prayers. But also believe what you've asked for will come about. Unless, of course, it's a selfish prayer, so to speak, or a prayer for yourself in a detrimental fashion according to God's righteous judgment and point of view, actually. As it says, I'll not answer your prayers, or words to this effect. I'll not answer your prayers that you may, I'm not answering your prayers lest you spend it on your pleasures. And a verse in the Bible there. So, and maybe backing up your belief that your prayers will be answered is the verse, I know God hears me because I do what is right, pleasing in his sight. So all those people writing out bull twang and big fat Bibles should really be looking out for some plagues. I think that's appropriate, very appropriate for these people. So anyway, signs and wonders. Angel created and blesses. Well, my authority should speak for itself in terms of just being another part of the body, as one's the eye, one's the nose, and one's the ears. And I think people with big eyes have better eyesight. It's a bit like those superhero movies with Hugh Jackman and, was that Wolverine? What about X-Men? People with big noses, I reckon, can smell more. Better smell, a more acute smell. People with big ears can obviously hear more. A bit of a superhero attribute there, and give a beep to when you see a fat person jogging, you know, egg them on a bit. How you going? Good on you. I think that's a good thing. As fat people die pretty young. But look, have a good day. That's all.